Welcome to Callan, County Kilkenny, the ancient and more modern skyline of which we see unfolding behind us here. Callan, for centuries the second most important town in County Kilkenny, has today a population of approximately 1,500 people. It contains within its general hinterland an amazing variety of historical and architectural sites. The area's fame, moreover, rests as much with its people as with its buildings and monuments. The actual town itself is of Norman origin. It was founded by the great Norman chieftain William Earl Marshall, husband of Strongbow's daughter Isabel. The new town was granted a charter in the year 1207. The borough remained part of the estates of William Marshall and his descendants until purchased by the Ormond Butlers in the year 1391. It prospered under the Ormonds and became one of the principal towns in their extensive domain. Callan's prosperity continued until the year 1650, when a Cromwellian army under the command of Colonel Reynolds attacked the heavily fortified town. He captured it after 3 days of fierce fighting. The town expanded very little for about 200 years after the Cromwellian devastation, remaining primarily confined to its medieval boundaries. It was as the market town to the surrounding countryside that Callan gained any degree of prosperity during all this period. The 19th century saw a substantial amount of reconstruction, and the bulk of the buildings that make up the core of the town were built in that century. Tradition states that Callan is called after the High King of Ireland, Niall Collier, who was drowned while trying to cross the river here with his army in 844 AD. He was drowned trying to save one of his soldiers. The river subsequently became known as Awenree, or the King's River. There are three national monuments in the town: Old St. Mary's Church, the Augustinian Abbey, and the Mote. At the lower end of Green Street near the cross stands the venerable ruins of Old St. Mary's Church. This is the ancient Gothic-style parish church of Callan. Its construction began about the year 1250, and like all its successors was dedicated to the Assumption of Our Blessed Lady. The church consists today of a substantial castle which at one time served as the presbytery, a roofless nave and side aisles, and the roofed chancel section. It was substantially remodelled in the 15th century, and all of its buildings, except for the lower section of the tower, date from that period. 3 maiden ladies of the locally wealthy Comerford family provided a substantial amount of funds for the 15th century rebuilding, but because they could not agree on what style of architecture to use, they were each given their own way and allowed to design a section each that were known as the 3 shock rawns. St. Mary's was badly damaged during the Cromwellian sack of Callan in 1650. It was never totally rebuilt and gradually deteriorated into a ruin. The chancel section was re-roofed in the early 19th century and used as a place of worship by the Church of Ireland community until the 1960s. The entire complex is now in the ownership and care of Ducas. In each aisle near the west end there is an ornamental doorway. The doorway into the south aisle has on each side an angel with a long flowing gown. The doorway into the north aisle has above it a carving of a lady's head. This latter door is low arched, and around its curve is a hollow pipe-like stone known as the Whispering Stone. The nave and aisles contain numerous medieval and other tombstones. The most ornate is an altar tomb erected to the memory of Gerald Comerford in 1585. Also buried here is Adam le Blunt, the second husband of the famous 14th century Kilkenny witch, Dame Alice Kittler. Many of the monuments are the works of the O'Tunnies, who were famous stone carvers in Callan. The chancel section contains several floor slabs with raised crosses, and on the side walls are fixed marble plaques to various individuals of the local gentry who were killed in the Great War 1914-18. The tower, as we stated already, is much older than the rest of the church. Its sandstone quoins and arch frame dated back to the 13th century. In the graveyard surrounding the church are some very interesting tombstones, none more so than those of the Tierneys and Rices, ancestors and relatives of Blessed Edmund Rice. Also on the south side is a tombstone to the famous 19th century Callan merchant family, the Shelleys. On the 31st of December 1999, as the sun set on the second millennium for the last time, Councillor Jimmy Brett, Chairman of Kilkenny County Council, planted a lime tree at the southwest corner of the cemetery. The tree planting was part of the official last light ceremony for County Kilkenny, and a huge crowd attended. Standing in the Abbey meadow on the north bank of the King's River are the remains of what at one time was a substantial Augustinian foundation. Only the ruins of the church now survive. The Augustinians began building their monastery at Callan in the 1460s, and it was completed in 1471. Like so many medieval monasteries, it was situated outside the boundaries of the town proper. It was founded and endowed by Sir James Butler, father of Pierce Rua Butler, 8th Earl of Ormond. The entire monastic complex consisted of the church, and between it and the river, the priory. The priory was built alongside a small quadrangle, around which ran a covered cloister. It contained a kitchen, bakehouse, dining room, hall, and 3 rooms with dormitories overhead. It also contained a splendid library in which was stored a valuable collection of manuscripts and copies of all the important books found in the celebrated monastery of Jerpoint. It is hard to imagine that this magnificent religious foundation functioned for less than 70 years, because in the year 1540, like so many other monasteries all over Ireland, it was suppressed and seized by King Henry VIII. Its community was scattered, its buildings damaged or destroyed, and its irreplaceable library burned. A short distance from the church is the old Abbey well, famous in song and story, from which the friars and townspeople alike drew their water supply in times past. The Augustinians returned to Callan periodically after the suppression of 1540, and by 1650 they had substantially rebuilt their community. However, in that fateful year, Cromwell drove them from the town. They returned permanently in the late 18th century. The present friary in Mill Street was built between the years 1810 and 1819 by the Reverend John Rice, brother of Blessed Edmund Rice. It was constructed of hewn stone in an early English architectural style. It has a gallery, choir loft, and a spacious basement. The basement housed a former novitiate and a school. and it is used today for a variety of community activities, such as bingo, meetings, and lectures. Standing between Bridge Street and the bypass on the north bank of the King's River is a perfectly preserved Norman motte, with its bailey to the west of it. The motte, bedecked with tall trees, is a well-loved Callan landmark known since time immemorial as the Mote. It was built initially by the Normans to form a strategic military strong point near the ford on the river sometime around the end of the 12th century. On its summit was erected a stout wooden castle in which the lord of the manor and his family lived. The moat was abandoned as a lordly residence in the 14th century when a stone castle was built a few hundred metres to the west of it. This castle became known as the Manor House of Callan, or Callan Castle, as some observers called it. In 1794, it came into the possession of Lord Callan, George Agar, who demolished it and built Westcourt House on the site. Westcourt House became the residence of the Church of Ireland rectors of Callan throughout a lengthy part of the 19th century. It was totally demolished in the 1990s. Just a short distance from where Callan Castle stood is a 300 years old single-storied thatched farmhouse where Callan's greatest son, Blessed Edmund Ignatius Rice, was born in 1762. Beside the house is the Edmund Rice Memorial Chapel and Monastery, built in 1968. In the sacristy of the church, there is a magnificent icon crafted by master iconographer Desmond Kine. It depicts various aspects of Edmund's life and work. The chapel is used for a variety of religious ceremonies in the Callan area. A new visitor centre situated nearby was opened in October 1996 to commemorate the occasion of Edmund's beatification in Rome. A large crowd of people from the Callan area and from all over Ireland attended this ceremony. The whole complex is now a very popular place of pilgrimage, and thousands of people visit it every year from all over the world. The house has been fully restored to what it was like in the 18th century, both internally and externally. Items belonging to the Rice family are on display, including a writing desk of Edmund's and a small library of books in the old house. This is Callan Workhouse. It's located in the townland of Prologue at the Clonmel Road end of the town. It was contracted for in May 1840 and completed in 1841. This workhouse serviced the Callan Poor Law Union, which covered part of Kilkenny and also part of Tipperary. In its early years of operation, the workhouse functioned very well, but the catastrophe of the Great Famine 1845-49 totally overwhelmed it. After the famine, the workhouse settled back into a more normal level of operation and continued to function right up to the 1920s. Callan Parish Church is situated on the top of Green Street. It was completed in 1843. The church is neoclassical in style, and 6 huge pillars support the front porch, pediment and bell tower. The parish church, known to generations of people as the Big Chapel, was the centre of a major ecclesiastical row in the 1870s between the parish priest, Reverend Robert O'Keefe, and the Bishop of Ossory. 2 major best-selling books have been written about this controversy, the greatest of these by Francis MacManus, and The Big Chapel by Callan-born novelist Thomas Kilroy. In the porch of the sacristy is mounted a uniquely sculptured Trinity stone depicting the Father, Son and Holy Ghost. It is one of only 30 in all of Ireland. Over the main altar are 3 large oil paintings executed by an Augustinian priest, Father Forden, in the early part of the 20th century. The town hall juts out from the centre of Green Street. It was erected in 1791 and served as the market house for the area up to the early part of the 20th century. It was here the corporation and later the town commissioners met. 2 plaques adorn the front of the building. James Hoban was born in the year 1762. He was apprenticed to a carpenter and then studied architecture in Dublin. He emigrated to America after the Revolutionary War. In 1792, he took part in a national competition to design a presidential mansion, which was later to become the White House. He won this prize, a gold medal and $500. On the 8th of December 1981, to commemorate the 150th anniversary of his death, a special postage stamp was issued simultaneously in the US and Ireland, with a special one-day cover in Callan. The Cuddihy family originated in the townland of Kyladoher. In 1849, during the height of the Great Famine, they emigrated to America, settling in the city of Milwaukee. They took 3 months to cross the Atlantic in a coffin ship. In their lifetimes, they were to revolutionize the world food industry by introducing refrigeration into the preserving of meat. Callan's greatest son was undoubtedly Edmund Rice. He was born at Westcourt in June 1762, the 5th of 7 sons born to Robert Rice and his wife Margaret Tierney. He received his early education at home and then for a period at a hedge school in Mote Lane. Subsequently, he attended school in Kilkenny City. In 1778, at the age of 16, he joined his uncle Michael Rice, a very wealthy merchant in Waterford City. When Michael died, he took over the entire enterprise. In his late 20s, Edmund married Mary Elliott, the daughter of another wealthy family in Waterford. Their married life, alas, was all too brief. His young wife died tragically from injuries she received after being thrown from a horse, leaving Edmund with an only daughter, also named Mary, who was handicapped. Always a deeply religious man, this tragedy was to totally change his life. In addition to looking after his daughter, he devoted more and more of his time in helping the poor and deprived of his adopted city, especially the young boys. He gave up his thriving business interests and devoted his great energies and wealth in order to help educate and feed them. In 1802, he decided to establish a formal religious order of teachers and commenced building a monastery and school. Its first 2 members were from Callan, Patrick Finn and Thomas Grosvenor. The Order of Christian Brothers spread rapidly and schools were opened all over Ireland and all over the world. Edmund Rice, who took the religious name of Ignatius, after a life of generosity and hard work, died at his monastery of Mount Sion on the 29th of August, 1844. He was declared venerable in 1975 and was beatified in Rome by Pope John Paul II on the 8th of October 1996. Thousands travelled from all 5 continents to attend the ceremony. Humphrey O'Sullivan, Olive O'Sullivan, was born near Killarney, County Kerry in May 1780. He moved to the town of Callan after the death of his father in 1808 and set up a school that at one period was attended by over 100 pupils. After some years he gave up teaching as his principal occupation and opened a shop in Green Street. He became one of the town's leading nationalist activists and was a relentless fighter for the rights of the oppressed poor. Humphrey is famous today because of his diaries written in Irish between the years 1827 and 1835. He died on the 20th of November 1838 and is buried in the family plot in Kilbride Cemetery. The Callan Tenant Protection Society, which was founded in Callan Town Hall on the 14th of October 1849, was to evolve into one of the most important movements in Irish history, the Irish Tenant League. It was founded by the Callan curates, Father Matt Keefe from Higginstown, Clara, and Father Tom O'Shea from Cappahayden near Callan. Father Tom O'Shea was born on Good Friday 1813. He was ordained a priest in 1840 and appointed to Callan as a curate in 1848. He was appointed parish priest of Camross, County Laois in 1863. Michael Ryan was born at Hollyhill in 1813. In 1833 he emigrated to Newfoundland, like so many people from the area at that time. In Bona Vista, a number of Irish Newfoundland families were involved in the extensive, rapidly growing fishing industry. Ryan became the Tsar of the industry, a veritable king cod, accumulating great wealth and status. Ryan's extensive residence has now been converted into a museum and interpretive centre dedicated to the North Atlantic fishery and the role played in the culture, lifestyle and economy of Newfoundland. Candlers, founders of the Coca-Cola Company. The Coca-Cola Company was established in Atlanta, Georgia in 1892 by Asa Griggs Candler, a direct descendant of Daniel and Anna Candler. They emigrated to America from Callan about the year 1720. Daniel, the son of a very wealthy Protestant, fell in love with a local Catholic girl named Anna, and in spite of his family's entreaties, he insisted on marrying her, and so they were disowned and had to leave for America. Asa Griggs Candler, who founded the Coca-Cola Company, was a great-grandson of theirs. John Locke was born in the townland of Menons on the 26th of July 1847. At school he was renowned for writing poetry and had his first poem published at the early age of 16. As a teenager he became involved in the Irish Republican Brotherhood or Fenian movement, along with several other young Callan men, including Edmund Coyne of Bridge Street. He was arrested in 1867. On his release he went to New York and went full-time into journalism. He died on the 31st of January 1889. John Locke is remembered principally today for one of his poems, Dawn on the Irish Coast, or the Anthem of the Emigrant. Tony O'Malley is one of the greatest artists Ireland has ever produced, and his stature grows by the day. He was born in Bridge Street in 1913, the son of a Clare Island father, Patrick O'Malley, and a local girl, Margaret Ryan. He worked as a clerk for the Munster and Leinster Bank from 1934 to 58 and served all over the country. During the 1940s, he began some painting. He married Canadian artist Jane Harris in 1973. He has received numerous awards. In recognition of his outstanding artistic achievements, Tony was made a Freeman of Kilkenny City on the 11th of February 2000, the only Callan person ever to have received this unique award.
to the home of my heart, to the land of my love. I'd be up on the wing with an exile's devotion, and there every danger the dark seas above. Again would I roam through the green shady bowers where the boys used to drill. There I first crossed the sea, and that we